What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday morning edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION, in all caps. The group is back together. Finally, a show with Colby, Vic, and myself. It's been over 2 weeks since the three of us have been on here together. Colby, how you feeling this morning? I know you've been under the weather the past few days, but you came on right away in our meeting and you chirped me right off the bat, so I knew you must be feeling better. But everything going well over there?
I was sitting in the waiting room listening, and all the feelings of stupidity that you bring every day just took me 5 seconds to digest them in and start coming for you. But I am feeling a lot better. Thankfully, the Cohen household is on the mend. So I still have a lot of thoughts that I want to talk about from this whole Four Nations tournament, which I haven't had an opportunity to, obviously, but we've got two really good guests today. Kind of perfect timing for them. And then when we're done with those guys, we'll give some of our thoughts here from the last week that I'm sure people are some things they're waiting for us to weigh in on. Right. So,
Yeah.
And I'm going to address something from Monday's show as well that needs to be addressed from our pal, Jeff Merrick, and his French-like attitude towards this whole thing. So let's not waste too much time, though. We've got Pat Kelleher waiting to chat with us. Johnny, I don't know if you want to read him into the show, but let's get right to it.
I'm sure Jeff is shaking on the bike right now, wondering what you're possibly going to say later on in the show. But let's bring on Pat Kelleher, the USA Hockey Executive Director. But before we do that, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. And Pat, good to have you on here. Colby always yells at me if I don't ask you how your morning is right off the bat. So no stupid question from me yet. You're in Boston. Your whole family's here. How's this been for you so far? It's got to be beyond exciting.
It's been fantastic. And selfishly for USA Hockey, it's also Hockey Week across America, right? That slides in there nicely. No, it's been unbelievable. I've been telling people, I went to Montreal last Tuesday to meet up with our team and our group, and I was so blown away by how excited all of our guys were to be a part of this. Like, we knew it's important to them. I've seen them across the season or even last summer, and they were all excited about it. Like, the smiles on their faces, just the camaraderie, the players were so excited to be there. And then obviously things have gone pretty well through the opening weekend. And then, a little bit of a blip through the Monday night game and a little bit, dealing with some stuff yesterday. But our guys are back at it, smiling, happy, ready to go. They're heading to the rink shortly for some practice this morning and then getting ready for tomorrow night.
Well, Pat, I want to just add on a little bit to your background because, look, I think a lot of people we have that listen to this show, they're Americans, but I think we also have a large contingency of Canadian people that listen to our show, and I just kind of want to make them aware. So, like, Pat is the executive director at USA Hockey. It's the top of the food chain of USA Hockey, and we've talked a lot about how Billy Guerin is the GM, and we had your brother on here a couple of weeks ago who's in charge of player personnel and one of the assistant GMs, and they show Chris Drury on TV left and right, but I just want to make people sort of realize is that at the top of any organization, like, you have an executive director, you have a president, and although you might not get the airtime that Billy gets, who's the general manager of the team, I just kind of want people to understand how, when it comes to these major events, whether it's Olympics, whether it's this, whether it's World Juniors, like, you are still you sit at the top, right? Like, I'll say it, you don't have to, because it's on the website. I'm not making anything up here. And so, for you to see this stretch from USA Hockey and for you to hear everyone, and maybe you haven't seen these interviews because you've been at the games, but one thing I've noticed, every player that gets interviewed from our Team USA, they all talk about playing together at the national team, some world championships they've played together. I heard a guy talk about the U.S. festivals from when they were young, talking about the last time they played with one of these guys. I got to think for you, that has to be one of the brightest parts of this tournament is just seeing 15, 20 years of work start to really culminate.
Yeah, thank you, Colby. I think the biggest thing, you guys know we have a big organization. There's 650,000 members of USA Hockey across the country. Most of them are grassroots youth hockey, boys and girls that play the game. And, this is the culmination. When you get to the NHL, that's the best on the men's side. And now you have the best and the best playing in this tournament for us. It is. These guys they've come through the system from, youth hockey in St. Louis for the Tkachuk brothers, youth hockey in Arizona for Austin Matthews, or wherever. They've been a part of it at 6, 7, 8 years old, and these are the best of the best. But we've had so many great people that have put together USA Hockey over the years. The other night in our suite for the game is Ron DiGregorio, past chair of the board, past president, current, still, future, always legend of USA Hockey, who is a builder, right? I mean, these people, this organization. We have such great structure. We have such a deep volunteer base and incredible staff of people that work to make sure, number one, every kid has the best experience in hockey possible. And number two, that we try and win gold medals at every event we go to, right? That's really what we do, along with making the game safe, educating people, all those things. That you do those things, you do the right things for all the people involved in the game. And we look at it and say, we should have really good results at the highest level. But the highest level of competition, whether it's men's or women's, or our sled program, there's other countries that are competing too. So it's not easy, but it's, to your words, Colby, I think it's a great culmination of all things USA Hockey. And I think everyone who's involved, I know everyone who's involved in the staff side and our volunteer side is super, super proud of our organization and just really, really excited to watch that game tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I've actually seen you talking about it a lot on NHL Network, on Frankly Speaking. You're doing your media rounds too. You're on our show this morning. Colby says Billy's getting all the love on camera, but I've seen your face quite a bit here the past few days. But speaking of all the proud moments, I mean, you've been in this role, Pat, since 2017, going on 8 years. Where does Saturday night rank as far as like the proudest you've been?
Truly, it was just unbelievable. Like, I'm like everybody else, right? I grew up a fan of hockey, played the game, loved the game, and I was blown away by what we had on Saturday night. Like, we knew going in, you talk about it, right? And I'm a Boston guy, so grew up dreading or fearing the Montreal Canadiens as a fan, and then you go in there on Saturday night in Montreal, US, Canada, and all the other stuff going on around the sport of hockey or outside of the sport of hockey adds to it. It was the energy walking into that building and being inside was incredible. And then the roof just blew off the place. I mean, the Tkachuk brothers are gonna bring the energy, and they're gonna, you'd always say they're gonna bring the fight, and they literally brought the fight. I mean, it was unbelievable. It truly was. And it was just then if people came in for that, right, and then you watch the hockey game, I mean, unbelievable talent, skill level, and play during all that. So it's right up there. I've been fortunate. We've won some World Juniors. I've seen our sled team win gold medals in Paralympics. I was there in 2018 to see our women win a gold medal in the Olympics. Like, we've had some pretty cool stuff happen for sure. But that was right up there with one of the most memorable experiences of my hockey life.
I got to follow up quick.
I sent Pat a picture the other day with a timestamp on it of a picture of him and I think Katie Couric, right? From 7 years ago, we were at the bar in Pyongyang. Where were we? We were in Korea. Yeah, that was Korea.
Pyeongchang,
yeah. We were at the bar in Korea. That was when the women won the gold medal, which was in a shootout. That game was obviously great. Go ahead, Johnny. Sorry.
No. I wanted to follow up. I know at the press box and the suites with all the executives can be a little buttoned up, and I know your brother pretty well after hanging out with him in Vegas during the draft, and he's been in our show, and I built like a friendship with him. Was there anyone of you that was like, "Oh my God, this is so sick"? Like, that kind of just couldn't contain the emotion. It was nuts.
So the hockey management staff sits up with the hockey group. So they're all together. I'm in our suite. We had some volunteer people. We had some donors and friends with us, and a couple other people. And the guy sitting next to me, I just turned to him like, "This is unbelievable." He's just shaking his head. It was wild, right? And then you're just, again, I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of our teams, and you just can't help yourself. You're just, excited and seeing that. And then, when Larkin scores to put us up, you're just, it's fist pumps and it's all that, high fiving around it, which I don't think the hockey group does during the game, just for the
Usually
well, look, I think the biggest word for me, Pat, that I wanted to focus on talking to you today is the word development. It's a word that in the game of hockey rears its head into every level, whether people actually understand it or are doing it right or whatever. That's a whole nother hour of a show that we can get into. But like I mentioned, the national team development program, like a program that changes a lot of guys' lives, right? A program I was able to come through. And you just learn these things at such a young age. But to see it continue to build, and especially at the goaltending position, I think you can split hairs between these rosters on any country really in this tournament. You really can, right? I know Sweden had a tough week. And I know Finland was down a couple of defensemen. They probably don't have the same depth that the US and the Canada have. But goaltending sticks out to me the most, right? You watched that game the other night. It's, that's a coin flip type of hockey game. And I think that's what Thursday will be. But the one area that I think the Americans have done such a phenomenal job at is in the goaltending position. So I'm curious, as somebody who is a major decision maker for the organization, is that something you can remember 15 years ago, sitting with, I don't know, David Lassonde or someone along those lines and realizing this is an area where we think we can separate?
It goes probably the bigger picture, at least for me, Colby, because I'm certainly not the goalie guy. My only good help for goalie, I think, as you know, Colby, putting our youngest brother, the youngest of 5 boys, in goal, and then he ended up playing at Boston College. So that's like my contribution, personal level, to goaltending. But it's I think what really came, USA Hockey's development's been a core principle of ours forever. But then in 2009, when we launched the American development model, it really helped us bring everything together, create a blueprint to develop hockey players at the youth level, all the way through NTDP, USHL, North American League, prep, whatever on the girls and women's side, and sled hockey and disabled. And as part of that, we had groups that looked at the different pockets, right? We have groups that focus on the player development or youth hockey development from ages 5 to 12 and then 13 to 18, because they're all different. And we have a group of dedicated, committed people that have been all in on goaltending. I mentioned Ron DiGrioro before. I mean, he's so influential in so many things in USA Hockey, but Digger is a goalie, and at his heart and core, that's what he loves. So you brought that leadership to it, that care, and then surrounded again, found the right people. At the time, you go back, we had Phil O'Sayer was a goalie guy for us. Now we get Steve Thompson. There's a million others that I just will leave out, but those people in our organization on the staff side drive it with incredibly dedicated volunteers. And I think that's the thing is, again, how do we make every aspect kids and people have the best experience? And those people focus on it from the goaltending side, right? And you see it. I mean, I know on our women's side, we have some goalies in college now that'll be the next wave for our national team that'll play in the PWHL because there's depth, right? And we recognize that, hey, the more kids you develop and the more goaltenders you develop, it gives you options. You look at the 3 on our team, right? Jake Ottinger, more of the straight line through the NTDP, Boston University, NHL stud. Jeremy Swayman didn't play. He famous story, right? He didn't have a team to play. Alaska kid, ends up in Colorado Springs for a year, then moves on, makes it Maine, NHL, right? And Connor Hellebuck is probably the best story. Michigan, NAHL, UMass Lowell, best goalie in the game. So there's different paths for everybody. And I think we try and keep those opportunities open as long as we can for players, especially at the goaltending level, which does take a little while to develop. And college hockey's been a huge part of that for us too.
And we didn't even have Thatcher Demko to choose from because of his injuries. But when he's healthy, again, you have to flip a coin to decide which one of these guys is going to play because they're so talented.
We had this discussion last year at the NHL All-Star Weekend. There were 8 goalies at the NHL All-Star Weekend, and 4 of them were the 4 you named, 4 Americans. So yeah, that was coming in. You're like, ooh, someone's going to get left off here. And then you look at the guys that jumped out to start the year. Anthony Stolars was unreal. You got Joseph Wall, you got Joey DeFord. Like there's some depth there, which is great. Mostly on the way up, hopefully.
Our producer Vic just mentioned Anthony Stolarz too. He's a big Leafs fan. But Pat, Colby wanted to focus on development. I want to focus on speed. Obviously, that's a big part of the game, but I'm going to twist this because we saw the picture of Quinn Hughes in Vancouver yesterday. So how fast can Quinn get to Boston today? Where in the world is Quinn Hughes?
That's a question. I mean, I've been, sworn to secrecy, and I do have plausible deniability because I don't know where he is. He obviously skated in Vancouver yesterday. I believe he's still out there and gonna skate at least for that team today. And then there are planes that travel from the West out to Boston. I mean, it's my family knows that because they expect me to travel from the West to Boston all the time. I'm not sure they know that planes can go outbound from Boston to Colorado, but I think we'll would be great to have Quinn, hopefully get here and be a part of this team. I mean, I think that could be certainly a boost in our room for the guys. Whether he ends up on the ice on Thursday is a whole other question that goes more to the hockey side.
Doesn't your family know that Colorado has year-round beautiful weather? I mean, even when it's cold, it's not too cold. When it's hot, there's no humidity. I mean, it's not that hard of a sell. Yeah, okay, I'm
hey,
the secret's out.
Colby, you know enough Bostonians. Right?
Yeah,
there's Boston, and then there's the rest of the world. So
yeah, these guys don't like to leave the 02215 zip code.
On a serious note, though, Pat, I did want to ask. Obviously there were the reports that Charlie McAvoy's in the hospital. Do you think he'll be with the team for the game? Will he be around the team, or is this something that I don't know how much detail you can give? But I think there are a lot of people who are wondering if McAvoy, just as a human being, will still be able to be around the guys even if he can't play.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. I mean, there's stuff they're still dealing with. I think Charlie's, he's going to be all right. That's number one concern is his health, right? I mean, and he's he's. I mean, you talk about a heart and soul guy. I mean, Charlie Mack is just the best. He's truly a heart and soul guy, and played so hard in those games. So he'll be missed by the group on the ice for sure, and hopefully there is the opportunity. But I think we're still kind of waiting to play that one by ear to see what's best for Charlie.
Yeah, well, seriously, it'll be a Cale Makar-sized hole for Team USA to fill if you're looking for some level of comparison. Pat, I know you're a busy guy and you've got a bunch of things you got to do today. So there's a couple of other things that I kind of noticed on the calendar that I just wanted to ask you about, non-Four Nations related. Big game tonight in good old Saugus, Massachusetts. I mean, I had a great teammate from BU, Jason Lawrence, who was a Saugus kid. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Saugus. And then I know the calendar for USA Hockey. I wrote some notes down here, but you guys are hosting quite a few world championships here in the near future. And so I don't know if you could just quickly share with our audience what you guys have planned here for the short and let's call it medium term.
Yeah, short term tonight and tomorrow afternoon, our sled team is playing Canada. So the best two sled teams in the world out at Saugus, Kasabuki Arena. Tonight it's 6:30, and then I think tomorrow is 1:00 in the afternoon. It's incredible. Those are our sled team. I think we have 4 or 5 of literally the best players in the world. Guys that are so dedicated, committed, and do unbelievable work. And we're so blessed that the NHL included the sled teams in this. There was a try hockey for free sled program yesterday out at Saugus that I was a part of. That was amazing. So it's a great sport, and I'll be out there to watch our team play tonight. I'm looking forward to that. And then we have, well, as you know, Colby, we have all of our youth national championships and girls hockey national championships in April. So those are all around the country. Then our women's team has the world championships over in the Czech Republic. Then we host the men's under 18 world championships down with our partners in the Dallas Stars in Dallas and Frisco. Wow. And those are, that's the NTDP kind of graduating class, and the best 17, 18-year-olds in the world will be playing down in Dallas for world championship. And that also is the last stop on the tour for the NHL draft. So we'll have plenty of NHL people in attendance for that one, but some great hockey. From there, we'll go to Buffalo at the end of May and host the World IPC Sled Hockey Championships. So again, best on best in sled hockey for a week in Buffalo, end of May. And then obviously the big one for us is next year, holiday season, Christmas time, the World Juniors in St. Paul in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which will be unbelievable to close out 2025 and start 2026 with the World Juniors. And then, oh, by the way, there's an event about 6 weeks after that over in Italy that will be participating with men's, women's, and sled teams too.
Yeah, that's That's quite a calendar. And look, I'm gonna leave you with this last challenge before I kick it over to Jonny and let him ask you one more question. the hockey needs more US versus Canada. Like, we have enjoyed this no matter what happens Thursday. Obviously, we'd love to see a win, but I heard John Cooper say this game Saturday night did more for the game than 10 years of NHL games. I mean, the impact is great. And I think what would be really, really cool to see, and I think this is probably a little bit of a pipe dream, but whether it's having a USHL team be able to play in the Memorial Cup, whether it's being able to have some at our youth level, maybe our champions at the U16 level play against the champions of the Ontario youth, GTA, like this kind of stuff, man. This would be so cool to see, and I just think people love it, and you see how much the players love it. I mean, anytime you get to represent something that's just a little bigger than you and your team, I think people just are clamoring for it.
Yeah, I think number one, the NHL and the NHLPA have done an unbelievable job putting this together and putting it on and bringing the best and the best back. It's been a while. I think we've all craved this for so long, and to have it happen, and just to the way it all unfolded in the game on Saturday night, and 4.5 million TV viewers in the US for that game on Saturday night. And I joked someone, and I don't even know what this really means, but our social media person told me we gained 30,000 Instagram followers after that game on Saturday night, which is a lot in one night. So we don't normally have that. So what this does, the best on best raises it for everybody, right? It brings in more players, ultimately, hopefully more players for USA Hockey at the grassroots, but more people, more fans who are certainly going to tune in Thursday night. I mean, there's no doubt. I've seen enough stuff on social of people like, hey, I don't know anything about hockey, but I can't wait for 8:00 on Thursday night. So I think hopefully that brings more people in who then get connected, who then say, hey, you have a rivalry series against Canada on the women's side. Your sled team plays Canada all the time. You have NTDP games that play against Canadian teams. You have the U18 Worlds. You have Women's World. So there's a lot out there. I just think this raises it because it's the best on the best in the world on the men's side.
Yeah, and Pat, my last question, and again, like Colby and I were actually kind of debating this a little bit before we went live this morning. I feel like the conversation a few weeks ago was everyone is just so happy that we're doing this, and players are just so happy to be a part of it. And now the conversation is becoming, this is just bigger than a game, right? Like Thursday night is all of a sudden now, Jack Eichel said it might be the biggest game ever for him. This guy won a cup 2 years ago. So where, for you, being around the guys, did that mentality maybe flip of, oh no, we're not just happy to play in this. Like this is something that we might never be a part of ever again?
I think from the moment it was announced, our guys were jacked up to compete and try and win this thing. I mean, I think, again, you guys know, whether it's Jack Eichel, whether it's Matthew Tkachuk, whether it's Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, these guys have been winners their whole lives in so many different places, right? World Juniors, under 18s, youth hockey, everything. They don't, when they put on that USA jersey, they show up to win and they expect to win, right? And that may be where it's been different for us. I was at an event with Matthew Tkachuk in the summer, and we were talking about some things. He's like, I can't wait for February, right? Like it wasn't like they got here. I'm like, oh, this would be an exhibition, and then it flipped. It was this whole time. The outside world may have been, oh, this is going to be whatever. These guys, the moment it was announced this was happening, was like, it's on.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome.
Look, and again, we're hoping for a U.S. victory, obviously, but first and foremost, we just want to continue to see this best on best product where these guys are, I mean, literally putting their lives on the line. When you see guys trying to block these shots with their going down and willing to drop their gloves, and there's no money being exchanged here. It's one thing when that paycheck's coming every 2 weeks, and some guys are collecting $1 million to $2 million every 2 weeks on their paychecks or whatever. This is just pride, pure pride. And I got to tell you, the product looks a hell of a lot different than it does during the National Hockey League season. So if you're ever wondering if is it the money that drives these guys? Certainly not in this situation. It's all pride. So Pat, again, good luck. We enjoy the game. It's great to see you. And now we got the Kelleher brother. 2 of the 5 have joined the show. We're making our way through. But hopefully we'll get you back on, and we'll be talking about some more gold medals here in the near future.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. Give Chris a big hello.
And just to address you being wrong per usual, Tommy T, you only get paid for 6 months of the year when you play hockey. So your math is wrong, because you don't get paid for 12 months when you play hockey. You get paid for 6 months. So your paychecks are double. So guess again and try again. You're in the chat just being your negative self as usual. And nobody's forcing you to listen to the show, pal. But you could recheck your math, okay? That would be great. So anyways, Jonny, good to get him on. And again, I can't state it enough. You're talking about the guy who is the top of the food chain of USA Hockey. And that's it's cool to have him on, right? I mean, it all runs through him. Pretty cool job, I'm sure, to have. Yeah,
and the Kellehers are the best.
We
love Chris. I've got to know Chris now over the past few years. It's really cool to have Pat on here. And again, Pat's been doing, a lot of media stuff the past couple of days, so really kind of him to hop on with us. Obviously, before tomorrow is going to be, listen, I've been, I was super excited for Saturday, obviously going into Saturday night, but I don't think there's ever been a game that I've been more excited for than tomorrow night. But Colby, before we have Jason Demers hop on here to go into the Canada side of things, do you want to go into stuff that you just wanted to get off your chest for the past, couple of days? Because we haven't heard from you, since last Thursday.
I mean, listen, I first off, I can't believe Jeff is still being a downer about this tournament. I wonder if he would have a different feel.
I think it's just because Canada lost.
If Canada had won the game. And listen, man, for the game tomorrow night, you want to handicap the game, flip a coin. All right. Yeah. These are the 2 best teams there is. You're talking about a couple of different bounces. You're talking about Binnington lets in a softie, and, the U.S. gets some good bounces. I mean, I'm thinking of that 2-on-1 where it was Hanifin went down to his knees and kind of blocked that pass. I mean, this is, you're splitting hairs. I'm going to be obviously very, bummed out for the American team if they don't win this game, but you're just going to see you're going to see the best players in the world giving and selling their souls to try to win. And I think that's what's been amazing about this tournament, has just been from the get-go, the acceptance of roles and the physicality that guys have played with. I mean, I don't remember being entertained by hockey like this. Remember they said before this tournament, they're all game 7s. That's what they've been. They've been game 7s. True. And again, I said to start it that you could split a hair with these teams, and then, here come the comments how Sweden wasn't as good as everyone else. Well, Sweden beat the U.S., right? And again, look at the defensive core. Look at some of the players. I mean, you see Elias Pettersson was his normal self in this tournament, just completely invisible. Absolutely, completely invisible. No shock there, though. Mm-hmm. And that sort of led me to the thought, and something I wanted to talk with you about today. And we can ask Jason Demers this when he comes on as well. But
he's here now, by the way, just if you want to.
Let's go ahead and bring him in, and I'll ask him this question to start before, we really kind of start getting into it. What's up, man? Good morning. How are you?
How are we doing, fellas?
We're fired up.
Appreciate you jumping on with us here. Yeah, we're fired up. I've been sick out all week, so this is like my first show back. So I'm getting a lot of things off my chest. And
quite literally.
I want to start by asking you this question because I've gotten really mixed responses from people that I've asked, high up in organizations on management teams. Can a bad or a good tournament for one of these players affect the future of a player with their NHL club. And I'll throw a couple examples at you. Elias Pettersson is one of them, right? Here's the next one I'm going to ask you about. Mitch Marner, right? Like, do you feel warm and fuzzy about a big old contract extension for Mitch Marner when, again, the lights got bigger, brighter, the game got tighter through the dots, and Mitch has found his way to the fourth line for Team Canada? So am I crazy to think this is going to linger, or this is lives in a box over here? Colby, you're clearly still taking too much NyQuil.
I mean, listen, you're not wrong to say it. I just think those two guys, the way they play in games that seem to get really physical, and not say that they play bad, but they just kind of get a little bit quieter. So you just notice it more. And that's the tough thing, because you go, hey, if I'm on a playoff team, I'm trying to win the big one. Is this a guy or these guys that I can get there with? But, I thought Mitch had a great game against Sweden, to open the tournament. I think that USA game was, listen, there's physical games and there's games like this is for the men. Like you just saw who showed up in that game, but those games are tough to do over a 7-game series. So I wouldn't say, in a best on best, you got to put your, and here's the thing is, I don't think Mitch Marner is the top line guy in this Canada team. I don't think he doesn't deserve to be on this team. I think he is the third or fourth line guy. He's a role guy, great on the penalty kill. He's going to give you some good minutes. I think he can kind of work on those bottom two lines and provide offense if it's needed. But again, look at the guys he's on the team with. It's just absolute horses. Like, Braden Point is just unbelievable. Unreal. Sidney, I've been saying it for years. He's still super underrated. He's one of those guys that's not talked about enough. He's so good. Sid's doing Sid things, McKinnon. So he falls down that lineup. I think they had him slotted high, but I just don't see him. I see him on that team. I don't think he's played bad. I just think there's guys that have played better. And that's kind of versus you look at Elias Pettersson, that was just clearly he didn't play good enough. Yeah. And they said, we don't really need you to win. And I think it hurts Elias. Everything right now has been hurting Elias. Like the way JT's playing in this tournament versus him, JT's contributed very well, penalty killing, playing hard, physical, the fight against Parayko in that game against Canada, which was insane. And then Pettersson just hasn't shown much. In the one game they win and he's playing 10 minutes. So,
but I will play devil's advocate too a little bit, because I think in a game like USA versus Canada also on Saturday, I don't think anyone took that game over. Even the biggest dogs that are playing. It's so hard to do that. Like, you have to think about the talent level that's spread across the league too. When these guys are the main guys on their team, they're going to be more noticeable also. In a game like this, one of the guys that I complimented a lot that I actually took a lot of heat for was Jack Hughes. I was like, listen, Jack Hughes might have not played well offensively, but man, did he take a ton of hits, get the puck out, win 50-50 battles, for a smaller guy to help his team win that game. Like, that's not a game where Jack Hughes will thrive in either. But I thought a lot of the little things that he did to help them close it out were important. And it might not be sexy to Devils fans, but there are a lot of Devils fans that are like, oh, I didn't even notice Jack. Like, he didn't skate around with the puck at all. Well, that's not the game he's going to play against fucking Canada,
Yeah. They played a complete masterclass defensively as a group of five. Like, every line knew what they were doing defensively. It was an old school John Tortorella. Just you're hitting when you can, and then as soon as they got a lead, it was sticks on puck. The two guys I'll say for me that I already knew one of them. I kind of knew he was gonna get there, but he's so young. I couldn't believe it. Is Slavin and Faber. Yeah. Slavin and Faber right now, what they're doing in this tournament is going so underlooked. Some people have come out and said it. They are unbelievable together, shutting down. And I didn't have a ton of respect for Jacob Slavin. I did. I think Jacob Slavin's great. I just, when I see a D-man winning a Lady Bing, I have a hard time. But he is so good with his stick, so good with his feet, moving the puck. He absolutely him and Faber shut down those top guys for Canada, which is like it hasn't happened once in the tournament other than against them, against those two guys, and they were out there all game long. And I think they're two guys that Canada's going to have to figure them out if they want to win, because they're going to be out there all game. US has home ice too, right, in this one.
Yeah.
So they're going to be out there every draw. So you're going to need that bottom 6 to do something for Canada. And you're not going to, because it's going to be tough sledding for Sid and those guys, because those two they kind of had the playbook on Canada, and Canada just got frustrated, started forcing stuff in the middle, just kind of playing a little bit individualistically. And it won't work if they try to do that again. So, because the only way to beat Connor Hellebuck is pucks and bodies to the net. You can't win passing it into the net against him.
And I got crushed last year on this show by our chat even, and on social media, because I said, how are we not considering Brock Faber for the Calder? Like I believe that he was neck in neck, or at times even ahead of Connor Bedard last year, and everybody was dismissing me other than people who lived in Minnesota, and it looks like you.
Me.
So I appreciate that. Johnny, okay, you but this kid, like, I'm not.
He was playing 25 minutes a night as a rookie.
It's insane. Like you can even go look at my Instagram. I went on the network and I said, it's criminal that Bedard's going to win this. And I just said, nothing against Bedard. It's just criminal. Like what he did for that team as a first year defenseman, running the power play when he'd never played power play in his career, barely. And he's running the power play for the Minnesota Wild, putting up points, had them in the playoff hunt a little bit, obviously but he's one of those guys, and he's continued it this season. Like he's next level defensively. I listened to Billy Guerin talking about him after the game on NHL Network. He was, so complimentary, but just being like, we know he's already a 35-year-old defenseman, the way his experience, his knowledge of the game. And for him to jump up on this stage with Jacob Slavin against arguably the best forward group Canada's ever put out there, and just shut them down was crazy. Crazy.
It's like a young Jason Demers in Worcester all those years ago. You know what I mean? Just patrolling the red line at warmups with McLaren over one shoulder and all those other freaking twin towers you guys had on those old Worcester teams back in the day.
Oh no, my first game in the AHL, I played with Cal McLaren, and we got to overtime, and I made a backhand pass across the ice that led to a goal for us to lose. And Cal McLaren came to the bench and said, "I don't want to play with him anymore."
Johnny Mac forechecking at 400% effort every single time in those nice shallow corners in old Worcester, as Barry Melrose calls it, Worcester. Good times.
Worcester. Welcome to Worcester, $1.25. Toll Booth Willie.
There is something that I want to get into though with you, JD, and it's something that I was arguing about all night last night. Colby and I haven't really dove into it yet. We just had Pat Kelleher on and asked for like an update on Quinn Hughes, but a lot of the Canadians I've been talking to, some that actually work for Team Canada, Hockey Canada, they're all going by the rules are rules. Like they're scared of Quinn coming into the championship game. I think that's what it sounds like. That's the narrative I'm running with, and I told them I'd be saying this on the show. Where do you stand with Quinn Hughes and his availability to play? Because right now it sounds like he won't be traveling to Boston unless he is for sure playing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, why wouldn't you be scared of Quinn Hughes? He's, arguably 1B in the NHL and defenseman, 1A, 1B. I'd put him very close to Cale Makar, but with Cale Makar at the slight edge. But, you want him on the ice regardless. He's one of those guys, there's other guys that you'd be like, you need a couple days to get going. I'm sure you'd throw him in the lineup, and after first period, he'd be, running the power play, moving left, right. I mean, it would just add another element to this team. Now, I do think Jake Sanderson's a very good replacement if he can't go, but obviously it's a tough one because the rules are a little weird on it. I know you can't. But it's like, could there be an exception? Because this is best on best. You want best on best. So if I'm Canada, you're like, hey, screw it. We'll beat you with Quinn Hughes in the lineup. But, I'm sure Quinn's not going to come unless he's 100% playing. He's not going to come and be a healthy scratch, I don't think.
Yeah, not when he has to go right back to play a game in Vegas a couple days after. It's too much.
And they have a huge, Vancouver, you're looking ahead, and this is a huge game. But what's crazy is NHL starts right back up again. And I'm like, how do we watch NHL games after what we just watched in this tournament? It's like the biggest letdown ever. Nothing against the NHL, but this has just been a treat.
Yeah.
And, I think Vancouver's really needs some wins, especially with Demko out. So they're really going to need to go on a run. And if he gets hurt in this game, that's their season.
I wanted to follow up quickly, though, because I saw your tweet, I think, earlier in the tournament. It might have been USA's first game, about how Team USA was really missing Quinn Hughes on the top power play and how you wanted to see Zach Werenski run it. Things come to fruition, and now he is. But let's hypothetically say that Quinn Hughes is playing on, the Thursday night, tomorrow night. Are you keeping Werenski in that spot? Like, he's earned it, right?
No.
But he's earned it.
He's earned it. I mean, Zach Werenski is
unreal.
Yeah, he's number 2 in the league. If Makar and Hughes are 1A, 1B, he's 2. And it's tough. I think you would start with Werenski, and then it wouldn't be long before Quinn came out. But like Quinn, who is just an incredible power play defenseman and insane, but do you want to mess up any kind of good feeling they got? That they haven't really seen much of Quinn, but Quinn will slot in pretty easily, I think. I just think you'd start it maybe on the second power play, and then now you have 2 units that have some really potent quarterbacks, and then eventually you can just interchange him if Zach's been on the ice for a little bit longer. I think it just helps the team. I think it might just be too late in the game for Quinn to play in this game, and I'd be surprised if he's in. If he makes it. And again, I think Vancouver's probably in his ear too, being like, if you're 100% going to play, you can, but don't waste the flight, stay here, get ready for the season. So it's a tough one.
I do think with along to what you said, though, I would have no problem if Canada said we're bringing Tom Wilson and we'd say, okay, no problem, because look, and Canada dealt with this. So like, let's make sure we're fair here. Canada didn't have Cale Makar when the United States beat them the other night. I mean, that's
different.
We're talking
game.
About the best defenseman maybe who ever played this game.
If you get Quinn,
we didn't have Quinn.
But so the U.S. is without Charlie McAvoy, and we spent time talking about Faber and Slavin, and it's well deserved. I mean, like, I think this was everyone, like you just said, it's almost like a wow moment with how good Slavin really is. Like, everybody always heard about how good he is, but like, wow, this was really on display. Charlie McAvoy went to a level that we haven't seen him get to consistently in a long time in these first couple of games. He was outstanding against Team Canada. So now, whether it's the Crosby line or maybe it's the McDavid line, now they don't have Slavin, Faber, or McAvoy. So it does change the matchups here a little bit for Team USA, and it does put more pressure on, Fox to defend. And I don't know if you've thought this, Jason. Look, Adam Fox is a Norris Trophy winner. He looks in over his head with the speed of this tournament, and that's the first time I've ever felt that way about Adam Fox.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Johnny, nothing.
No, he's a friend.
I know, and I listen. I really like his game, and think he's a great player. I'm not discounting.
I mean,
I'm not discounting, or it's not indictment on his game. But at the start of the season, I had him like lower in the D rankings, and people freaking lost their mind, especially New York Rangers fans. And I'm like, I'm telling you,
I was probably one of them.
Once you see them all together, now you're seeing. And I even still had him up higher than I think he was because of his pedigree. Now, Charlie McAvoy, I think this tournament was perfect for him for one reason, is he wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
And when Charlie McAvoy is not the guy, because he loves to play physical, he loves to run around, and you can't do that when you're playing 27, 28 a night. It just doesn't work. I tried to do that at times in my career, and I always ended up getting hurt because I had to play the same way playing 18 minutes versus 22, 23. And if I did that consistently, I would get hurt or something would happen. It just wouldn't work out. And Charlie's kind of in that same boat. Now he's way better than I ever was, but he has a hard time adjusting to minutes. And I think this was a perfect thing for him this tournament. It just highlighted everything that's great about Charlie McAvoy. He's a dog. He's a warrior. He can move the puck well. He really can frustrate guys and play on that line. And because he got less minutes, he shined even brighter. So, but for Fox, I don't know if I would have Fox. This is kind of one of those games that it's a Jake Sanderson game where Jake Sanderson comes in and he's kind of the guy that's going to have to step up. And I'm very high on Jake Sanderson. I think he's got a high hockey IQ. He can skate, he can move the puck, can play. He is good defensively. I think not many people see a ton of him being in Ottawa, but this is kind of one of those games. It's him for him to step up, and they're going to have to, Slave and Faber will have to kind of do their thing. And then that group of 4 is going to have to play together, and they're going to have to double team a lot of lines and make sure it's quick. And if I'm on the bench, it's like, hey, we're just trying to match. It's going to be quick shifts. We need to get our top guys against the top guys. But then after that, you guys just find a way to kind of slaughter. And I think that's something that'll be discussed. But yeah, listen, we talked about guys that, this tournament might have hurt him a little bit. I don't think this hurts Adam Fox, but people kind of see, and I'm not going to name names, but around the league, come playoff time. No, I'm just saying a lot of guys around the league that I know all told me they love playing against Adam Fox in the playoffs. And they're just like, it's a great matchup for me. And nothing against him at all. I just think defensive. And it's not, here's the thing. I think I think I've talked to you about this, Johnny, is they need to get him a legitimate D partner.
Yeah.
You cannot have him carrying a line defensively and offensively. He needs a guy with him. They need to go get somebody. I think they thought Keandre Miller would become that, but they need to find a legitimate lefty because it's going to end up hurting his career, I think. And it's just he's going to end up getting more injured because he's going to have to take more brunt of stuff. He needs a guy that comes in, protects him a little bit defensively, kind of like Luke Shen did for a little bit with Quinn Hughes. Yeah. You need that where Quinn can just go do his thing until he kind of, gets his feet under him. Adam Fox needs that. And I think nothing showed this more. If I'm the Rangers, I'm watching this. I'm like, and I'm Drury come deadline. I'm like, we need to go get a guy.
Yeah. Well, somebody who's going to get back on pucks a little bit for him, and someone who's going to just run a little bit of interference and buy him a little bit more time and space. Like, I totally agree with the whole come in and protect him thing. I just want to, when I hear you say that, I don't think so much after the whistle. I'm thinking more.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean that yet. Because I mean, just like, it's just shielding defensively. So you need a complimentary player with you. Nothing. Ryan Lindgren's a warrior. He's been a warrior. Right. He's just punching above his weight class.
Totally agree with
both
you.
Both
not
those
a top
guys,
pair guy.
Yeah, it's not. And it's just going to hurt him more. And it's going to hurt Adam, and it's going to hurt both these guys. And I think Adam's got so many good tools, and they're asking way too much of him. And I just think you need to bring in a guy, regardless of how much Adam Fox is making. He's legitimate. He can be a top 10 defenseman in the NHL, and he just needs. But you need help. You can't do it alone. Like Makar is Devon Taves. Quinn Hughes had Shen. He's got Hronik. He's got guys that can kind of help him out. Mira Heiskanen had Esther Lundell or Thomas Harley at times. So it's like you have guys that kind of can match you. I just don't think Ryan Lindgren's enough, and I just think this tournament's kind of shown Rangers fans, and I hope Rangers management, like, we need to earnest effort to get somebody for him.
Yeah, and here's what I will say, just to throw back a little bit. Adam Fox, everyone knows about his game. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the most physical, but what's always been great about Adam Fox is up here, and I think he makes players around him typically better. And always the comparison between Cale and Adam was, if you put Cale on, let's say, whoever the worst team in the league was at the time, or if you put Cale on Chicago right now, Cale Makar will still probably create his own scoring chances and produce offensively because he has that much talent alone. But Adam Fox, I not that he needs better players around him, but he would probably make Connor Bedard a much better player than Cale Makar would, because Adam Fox would be able to find Bedard in those spots. Like, I don't know if Cale.
That's a tough one.
Is that a tough one, you think?
Cale Makar's pretty freaking good too, John.
I just think Cale is. There's not a D-man that we've seen that's Cale Makar in a long time.
Maybe.
I'm saying Cale could still create on his own. Adam wouldn't necessarily create on his own, but he'd make Bedard that much better. I don't know if Cale would make Bedard that much better, if that makes sense.
My argument back to that is, I said, Colorado Avalanche were fine with getting rid of Mikko Rantanen, and we all thought they were nuts. And Marty Necas looks like, and that's also credit to Nathan McKinnon. But Cale Makar is going to be all right, no matter what. Well, and I think he will. But But I think he will elevate guys too. Like, look at what they've done to Marty Necas. Like, Marty Necas is a world beater right now in Colorado, and we're all like, Mikko Rantanen, what a joke! Mikko Rantanen's going to get traded again. It's like it's like, and I mean, color me shocked because I was like, what a bad trade. Like Carolina, like Colorado, why are they getting rid of Rantanen? And now we know it's because and you talk to guys there is like Cale Makar is look at when Devon Taves. When he was out in that game against USA, -3.
Yeah, he looked very pedestrian, and he's nothing. He's not even close to pedestrian.
He's not pedestrian.
No, but he looked
Cale is that guy, and that he elevates Devon like crazy.
Yeah, and I got to say,
but I'm with you.
Well, no, just because the chat is coming at me as if like I don't know or have played with both of them. Like I know them both very well. I played with both of them.
There's a chat coming for you.
There's no slander towards Cale Makar. If anything, I'm complimenting Cale Makar on his individual talent.
Johnny wears Cale Makar underwear on the days Lafreniere underwear are dirty.
But Johnny, this chat don't know that. Yeah.
Let me finish my point though, JD, because I've actually had this conversation with like a lot of people who have seen Adam play throughout his life, and Adam has this narrative around him that he's this big offensive defenseman. You never really see Adam Fox leading the rush. You know, he is not one to threaten with speed or skating like Cale or Quinn do. Cale and Quinn can get up the ice and start the rush, create a 3-on-2. Adam is usually leading it with the first pass.
Let me finish my thought.
Let me finish my thought. Like, he's not necessarily the offensive threat 200 feet like Quinn and Cale are. He's not.
Yeah, but the net is on one part of the ice, Sean. You don't have to be an offensive.
It's a different offensive defenseman. I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's still an offensive defenseman. There's different ways to skin a cat, Johnny. Like it's not everybody does it the same way.
I get what you're getting at by saying like he's not the same archetype as those guys, but to Kolb's point, like you're an OD man, OFD. You got to be an OFD. Like that's what your thing is. I mean, he is underrated defensively with his stick, but again, you're seeing when the play gets ramped up, playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, you see the pace. Yeah, and this is kind of a pace. This is another level, but
I fully agree. By the way,
it's within that realm.
And holes close so quick. In the National Hockey League, and then the last 20 games of the season they close quicker, and then the first round they close quicker, second round they close quicker. Like so with Cale Makar and why him and Quinn Hughes separate, and Roman Josi was there for a couple of years and is probably not still. But he's another one of these guys. They create the pace that decides how long these holes stay open for, right? But that doesn't mean they're the only guys who hit those holes and who make those plays. It's totally different. We have this Cole Hudson, Quinn Hudson, Cole Hudson, Lane Hudson conversation all the time. They execute the same play, but the way they get there looks very differently, but they end up with the same score, stat line. So it's just a little different.
Yeah, Cole. I like Cole Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a step above potentially, or will get to above Lane, but he's good, man.
Yeah.
They're both good.
JD,
you're splitting hairs when you're talking about these.
Yeah,
elite.
of course.
I mean,
you are. It's just different. It's but it's funny because I agree with Johnny, because you got to watch. You could say everything good about Cale Makar, but if you say that, like, oh yeah, but he's, he might just not make Connor Bedard better. You son of a bitch! You say don't talk about Cale like that. It's like, come on.
It's also not even like I was saying. Cale will still be Cale. Like,
people are sensitive. It's fine.
You know what I really learned doing this show, Jason, because like I previously had only ever worked in singular markets, other than with the NCAA tournament. College fans, it's like a little bit different. And I guess I never realized this because it's been so long since I was a young kid, like living in the throes of this. Fans protect their player. Yeah. Like, even if it's a player that they shit on all the time in their own market, if you as an outsider, and you're on NHL Network multiple days a week, so you're out there for everyone to see all the time. People quickly come for you. You could say 9 nice things about a player from a certain fan base, and the one, well, maybe they didn't make a good play here. That's the only thing that they remember when they come for you about talking about their player.
I mean, it happened 2 times to me. One, I had to go on a Ottawa Senators podcast with the Locked On Senators guys.
Those
They're
guys are
awesome.
great.
They're
Yeah,
awesome guys.
great.
But
Yeah.
I posted Tim Stützle's a great player, this and that. I think he's really dynamic. But if he keeps kind of embellishing, diving, as I alluded to, it's going to make it tough for himself and the refs in the league, and guys are going to stop. He's going to end up getting more injured. Oh my God. People are bringing up like videos of mine, like from games, like 15 years ago. This guy stinks. Look at a turnover. What's he talking about it? To the point where I'm like, I literally just mapped out. I said, you have a fantastic player, but this is just one little thing that if he switches, changes, improves it, he'll be even better. And it's just, nope, nothing. Same thing with Quinn. I talked about Quinn. I said he's one of the best in the league. I just think a couple guys better than him. You son of a, you know nothing about hockey. I'm like, all right, hey, listen. But that's the beautiful thing about fandom, and that I knew that it was apparent when I played, but now being on the other side of it and being at games and really taking a bird's eye view of it. I mean, it's so amazing. Like the fans are what make this go around.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see people get so jazzed up, a 45-year-old wearing an 18-year-old's jersey and like protecting him like he's their own. It's cool. It's cool. It's part creepy, but it's mostly cool. And I just think it's amazing. And it's such a testament to the fans and what, listen, without the fans, no one's getting paid.
Yeah.
Adam Fox ain't getting $9.5 million if no one's watching. So people are watching, and there's a shared responsibility by both parties. And it allows, listen, fans, they keep it respectful. You can say whatever the hell you want because you're paying the tickets, man.
Well, we'll do you a favor, JD, because Ranger fans are always in my mentions. Can you please just shit on Ryan Lindgren or just say something negative about Lindgren? And we'll clip that Lindgren stuff for you, so the Ranger fans will love you, because that's all the Ranger fans want is for someone to shit on him, which is like the opposite of kind of what we're saying.
That's what's funny is I mean, Lindgren is one of those guys. I respect the hell out of him. It's just like we said, you're just not a top pair defenseman, unfortunately, because of too many injuries and because of kind of that similar thing to Charlie McAvoy, where he has to play the same way to be effective every single game. Now, again, before people go, well, you're comparing McAvoy to Lindgren. No, McAvoy's way better than Ryan Lindgren. Yeah. But what I'm saying is Ryan Lindgren, if he plays 12 minutes or 25 minutes, he's going to play the same exact way. That's the way that got him to the NHL. It's the way when I played, I could only play balls to the wall and try to hit guys and play physical because I couldn't out skate anybody. I couldn't, so I had to do it a little bit differently. I had to learn how to cheat within the rules. So Ryan Lindgren does that. So I respect the hell out of that. But what I see is anytime he gets more ice time, he ends up either getting hurt or it's just a matter of time, or he gets exposed and they don't play as good. So it's nothing against him. It's just he needs to be within if they're doing him a disservice by not playing him 16, 17 a night. And that's more a team, because that's not that shows me is you don't have enough guys to play above him. So he is your best option. You need to go get a better option than him.
Yeah. Well, and I think, look, that's up. Like your management team has to give the coaching staff the right tools to put guys in situations to be successful. At one point, you mentioned Torts, and I think Torts, from talking to the guys, I think the guys on this Team USA team like love having Torts on the bench because he's just always angry and he's fired up. But I'll give him credit here. I think Torts does about as good a job as anybody of making sure they don't give too much too soon to players. And I was texting with our producer Vic yesterday a little bit about how some of these, like in particular, some of these young stud Canadian players at 18 haven't necessarily fully panned out. And I said, like Lafreniere and maybe not just, how about Kakko? Like these guys were thrown into the fire way too quickly. Like I know you didn't play a ton of games in the AHL, but you spent 100 and let's call it 20 games in the American League, right? Like, because they didn't just say to you, take your water wings off and here's the deep end. They let you work some stuff out for, I'm looking at it here, 78 games in the 1 year. You barely ever played anymore after that. It was like a little cup of coffee, but there's something to be said for putting guys in situations to be successful. Yeah, you tease opportunities, you throw them in the deep end, but then you yank them back to the shallow end. And I think, this whole conversation, in my opinion, stems back to, setting guys up for success. And I think which team's gonna do that better, and how are they gonna construct the roster to do that?
Well, you see the teams that do it consistently. Like I always point to the Dallas Stars of how they draft, develop, release players. It's just they're the gold standard now. They, haven't won, but here's the thing: they haven't won a cup in a while. But if you look at their body of work and what they have, they're going to be competitive for the next 10, 15 years, and that's what you're looking for. I think that's what every GM's looking for. Now you have to eventually take a swing if you're missing that one big piece. But overall, it's like you're putting guys in the right position because they're learning the culture, they're learning how you play, and then they're coming up and it's seamless. So again, sometimes GMs and scouting staffs, they get really high on a guy. And again, you don't know what a guy's going to turn into at 18. It's tough. The NHL is very hard. It's, I wish that it would be more, you'd be able to come in at 19 in the NHL instead of 18, holding guys back 1 year, unless you're very, very, unless you're Connor McDavid or you're generational or something like that. But you know what happened with Connor Bedard? Like I was playing in the minors and I was watching him play my last year, and I was telling guys, I'm like, I don't think it's going to be way too quick, especially if they don't surround him with good players. He's going to struggle. He's going to put up points, but he's going to learn bad habits. He's going to learn how to cheat. And then that's not, and rightfully so, because he's the only one. He's got to create chances. There's not much there. So you're asking him now to develop a bad style of hockey and bad habits, and then you learn how to lose. And I never like teaching a young guy how to lose. You want guys to come in a situation where there's a standard, and that's what Torts holds guys to. Even though they're not in the playoffs, he holds them to a standard of what he thinks is winning. Sometimes does he go too far? Yes, I think sometimes it's too much of the Torts show, but he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't stray from it. And there's a lot of teams that just say, hey, it's fine. He needs to make those mistakes. Yeah, you do, but without repercussions. You're just giving bad habits to these kids, and it's so hard to break a bad habit. Like as a defenseman, like you're going in the corner and you're never going stick on puck, and you're just being taught, because if you go in here and you cross check, every puck's getting through you and they're eventually scoring, but you're thinking you're doing the right job because you're playing physical. But no, you're not playing physical. You're playing dumb defensively. You need to go stick on puck, separate the man from the body, and then from there, you're relying on some help. So, but it's like little things like that. And then you see the really good teams teach it, and you see the really good coaches teach it, and the GMs. And then you see the ones that kind of are missing, and guys develop these bad habits. I look always to Washington, and I look to Scotty Allen. Scotty Allen in Washington is one of the great coaches, defensive coaches in the NHL. He goes there. He had Jacob Chikrin in Arizona. Jacob Chikrin had his best year. He got fired. Jacob Chikrin kind of struggled for 4 or 5 years. Now he's reunited with him. He's having his best year again. He knows how to teach guys and explain it to guys. So it's just really, and you said it you said it perfectly at the start. It's you want to put guys in a position to succeed. Like you want guys to showcase what makes them great, and you have to put them in a situation where they're allowed to do that. When you don't, and you throw them in things where it doesn't work, like a Ryan Lindgren up on a first pair, you're doing him a disservice. But you're doing him a disservice. It's nothing against him. It's you're hurting him. And then what's happened is, but that's the nature of the beast in hockey, is they give you the opportunity. You have to seize it. If not, they'll find somebody else. You can't walk into an NHL dressing room, in a coach's office, especially me. I couldn't walk in at 22 and be like, hey, coach, like, I know you want to play me like 21, 22, but 16 is perfect for me.
Yeah.
And I'll take a little bit of penalty, a little bit of par, but they'd be like, excuse me? Because you're striving to be the best. That's what this is. It's the best league in the world. So you're not going to say anything, but coaches have to realize what you have, and GMs do, and have to be honest. And that just sometimes doesn't happen when people's jobs are on the lines, and you're just trying to do what you can to stay around. So, and it creates this, like, it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, fans wonder why, but it's a lot of that. It's just, it's live guys' livelihoods. And that's bad decisions are sometimes made when they're made that way out of emotion instead of really thinking it through.
Yeah, no, listen, it's a great rant that you went on. There are a couple other things I just wanted to ask you, and I don't know how much time you have. We appreciate the time you've given us. Say, Colby, do you have any final thoughts before
Well,
I?
Honestly, I was just going to ask him a follow up on that, based on the fact that, like, let's talk about the fact that you agree about these 18-year-old kids and think 19. So, are you a fan of this new shift where these kids can go play college now and maybe take that extra development year or two against, again, 24 and 25-year-old guys that you'll see a lot of nights when you play in the NCAA? I know your path was through major junior, and you kind of went like, I looking at your career, and I mean, we played against each other a million times in those early days in Worcester and Providence. So I remember it really well. And I remember, like,
it was a good rivalry.
Certain guys stuck out in those games, like there were just certain players that you'd watch, whether it was you or Logan or McGinn or guys like that, and you'd be like, yeah, that guy won't be here that long. But are you a fan of this new ability for these Canadian kids to take a little bit more time?
100%. It depends how they what they turn this into, and where the money's made, and because sometimes these things get a little bit. Like, I just hope they do it the right way. I'm a big fan of not necessarily top guys, because I think top guys will find their way no matter what. But if I'm like, if I'm a bubble guy, I was drafted when I was 20. So, I would have potentially, if I didn't get drafted that year, I would have an outlet to go to college and then maybe go play some university, keep developing. So I think if I'm like a bubble guy, I get drafted at 19. If I'm a coaching staff, I'm like, do we think he's going to be in the AHL in 2 years? Maybe. Is he better suited to go play at a great university, get a great, have nutrition there for him, have weightlifting there for him. We know where he is. We can really monitor him. He's going to be in a good structure. And then we're going to get him at 22, and he's going to come in. And I just think, even for players, if I think, I have a guy, if I'm an agent and I have a kid that I think is going to develop, going to take some time, I think go to university. Come in a little bit later. You see a lot of these guys that, Justin Schultz back in the day, when he said no to a contract, stayed in university, came out, ended up having a great, fantastic career. Like, that's the beautiful thing about hockey, I think, versus a lot of the other sports. There's a lot of avenues to make it. And this just opens up another door. There's a lot of avenues. You don't need to think like, okay, if I don't get drafted at 18, I'm dead in the water. Like, you can, there's guys that come in at, Derek Ryan came from like Europe and he came in at 30. And ended up playing 500, 600 games in the NHL, and he's still there in the minors. But he's really contributed to this Oilers team. So there's just tons of ways to make it in, and I just think this adds another avenue. And what I think it's going to do, it's going to make junior a little bit younger, and now it's going to be more of like a 16, 17-year-old league, and I think that'll be good for a lot of guys, because you're going to get those 20-year-olds that'll go into playing university instead. Maybe get some NIL money, figure something out like that. But I think it'll make junior younger. So I think if they do it the right way, and, it's just got to make sure that, it doesn't get too greasy and how you're pulling guys out. But again, all that, behind the scenes stuff, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't pay attention to that too much, but I just think it's going to make junior younger, which I think will be good. And it'll maybe help university, get some solid players as well. Even more solid players.
Worlds now. Yeah,
I think it's going to make the NHL. And I actually believe that, and some have rolled their eyes at me for saying this, I think you're going to have a better product in the National Hockey League, because I think instead of having these 18-year-olds that you're forcing to find power play spots for, and you're forcing them to play in the National Hockey League when they're not ready, because you don't want them to have 175 points in the CHL. I think you're just going to make those players better to contribute quicker, and it's just going to give the product a little bit of a kick in the ass in a good way, and is my opinion. So
yeah, you think Shane Wright could have done well by going to university for a couple of years?
Yeah.
He's
good. There's a list of them: Lafreniere, Wright, Cock. I mean, there's a whole list of these guys, right? And I still would love to see the CHL and the USHL have some sort of cooperation agreement where they kind of have a super league in North America, and then the funnel really kind of, there really is a path, and you can jump it and you can go and collect your $200, or you can draw a card and skip a lap. But I would still love to ultimately see that be a great cooperation to happen, but we'll see what comes of it all.
Time will tell.
Yeah. And JD, my last thing, because I know you're a great storyteller. I got to sit with you at a morning skate in San Jose, or in New York against San Jose. I'm going to make Colby cringe, but I'll probably make Vic laugh behind the scenes because I have to ask you this question. Colby, I don't know if you know, and I don't know if Vic knows or our chat knows, but your nickname in the NHL by players was Daddy. And every time like Colby or Vic, we say something in our chat, I'll say like, thank you, Daddy. And Colby always gives me shit for it because I love Billy Madison. That's where it stems from for me.
Yeah.
But, you played for Team Canada in the 2022 Olympics. Like you've worn the jersey. I'm not necessarily asking you for a story, but take us into that locker room tomorrow. And obviously it's not necessarily apples to apples because the 2022 Olympics were different, no NHL players and whatnot. But you got to imagine a lot of guys will be uptight for this game, where a lot of players right now are saying this is arguably the biggest game they're ever going to play in, to this point.
Yeah.
You as a looser guy in the room, like, can you take us into like what your mentality would be for tonight and going into tomorrow for Team Canada?
Yeah. I mean, listen, like I was loose in terms of like during practice, I would talk a lot and you couldn't get me to shut up, but I would always be loud and, kind of being rah, get the guys going and stuff like that. But I played at World Championships with a ton of these guys. We were doing the game and I was like, I played with Nate and Mitch and Braden Point and Colton Parayko, Josh Morrissey. I played with all these guys at the World Championships. And so I saw them before a big game, which, we lost in shootout, which stupid as shit ever, but we lost in shootout to Sweden and we should have won that game. But those guys were, they're the best of the best for a reason. And they're so dialed in. They are so serious. You saw Nate when Biz was barking at him before that first game, before that game against US, like they're just locked in and it's hard to kind of put it in perspective. It's really quiet, but it's like, it's, what is it? The oxymoron, it's deafening silence.
Yeah.
Because you just feel the energy, you feel the buzz in the room. There's like a hum in the room. And, guys will be kind of like, let's go, boys. Let's figure it out. Play right. Guys are kind of saying, let's have our details, fast start, finish hits. But then there'll be a silence over the room. And, to be a fly on the wall. And, those are fun moments in my career because anytime I was in that situation, like you can just feel it. And Colby too. I mean, both of you guys have played a bit, so and you guys have played, like there's just a buzz when you just feel it. Like everybody's kind of excited. It's like you want to just release that aggression, but you got to hold it in and you're looking at the clock and how much time we got. 2 minutes. Guys get up, they do their handshakes, you do your routine and all that handshake stuff and the, chest bumping and cheering. A lot of it is calming your nerves down because you're so jacked up that you need to keep doing things and go through this routine just to kind of, it's like little checkpoints to get on the ice. And, but it's just such an amazing moment, those last 5 minutes before a big game, because like I said, there's a buzz. I'd love to check the frequency in the room or whatever. And the energy, because if you could quantify that and bottle that up and give that to everybody, you wouldn't need coffee because that stuff is just like you're feeding off each other and you're hoping that guys are feeding off you and you're trying to give the right energy and support each other. And because you guys know you're going to go into battle and you're going to go into war again, go into war. So it's like, it's obviously not war. It's hockey, but there's a level of putting your body on the line that know what's coming, the pain's coming and you're going to experience it together. So you're like, it's an amazing, unique feeling that, not many people get to feel, but it's something that, guys say they miss the room, but that's one of the things I miss. Like I was telling people that Canada-US game, that was probably the only time since I retired or when I watched Game 7 where I was like, I want to come back and play because it was that game, not necessarily the joking in the room, but it was that moment of like, guys getting killed. You know, Brady Tkachuk's burying Drew Doughty. He's popping right up, even though that hurt. And he's going to the bench, and the boys see it, and they're like, "Okay, I'm going to go get one back for you, or give one, get one." And it's just amazing character building, and it's also just amazing bonding moments for you and the guys, and you just take that with you anywhere you go.
When you were setting that scene, the first place my brain went was Game 7 in Vancouver in 2011, because I was sitting on the exercise bike as the guys got done their warm-ups, and the bikes, again, I think it's changed a little bit. You know how those bikes sit right outside the room, and I remember
the worst bike room ever in the league.
Matt Barkowski, myself, and Trent Whitfield, you know, all from those old Providence Worcester days of playing against each other. We're like, why do we have to ride the bike? It's Game 7. We there's no tomorrow here. But
Exactly.
our strength coach was like, you're riding. Like, you're not taking the day off. But watching the guys get ready for that Game 7 and watching them, and you could feel what you're talking about. And I was obviously not playing that night, clearly. But just watching Recchi and Luch and I guess Horty had been out already at that point, but get ready to go out for that moment, and the energy that you could feel. It was definitely quiet and loud at the same time, if, you know, like you just said. So, you know, I haven't really thought about that moment like that in that sort of frame till you brought that up, and that was where my brain went when you started talking about that.
I was sweating talking about it, my palms, and then before the game when they were doing the anthems, I was leaking sweat before the game, because your body's, you know, it's like imprinted in you. So like just saying that you felt that moment, and you just get kind of transported back, and it's just a weird feeling when you see it again. But yeah, you take it with you everywhere.
Yeah.
No, mine's just the Hockey East first round playoff game. That's the coolest thing.
Hey, come on, listen. You
It's
played
relative.
the game. Hey, you played the game.
Johnny, I remember getting ready for champion when I was a Bantam, we played Honey Baked for the national championship, whatever Bantam year that is. And they had, you know, I could still name 7 guys from the Honey Baked team, right? Like, literally. But I can remember walking out on the ice for that game. So it's relative. It doesn't really matter, you know, if it really is. There's relative moments that you can sort of relive. And so don't, you know, those Hockey East championship games at the Garden, those are not small games. Those are
those are huge.
You're massive crowds.
You played in the content creator game. Come on, man. Come on now.
I did get a chuckle when he started sending me pictures of like his stall. I'm like, some guys played in the game, and then there's Johnny, who just YouTubed his way into the hard way.
Earned it, yeah. Did it the hard way, baby.
No, he didn't have to play in the jungle at all, and he got that. He got that.
Somehow got it.
Jersey.
Exactly.
Jesus.
JD, thank you so much for your time today, though. Seriously,
thanks,
always.
boys.
You know, I think your first time on here, so we'd love to have you back. One of the best guests for sure.
Where do you live now? Are you in the New York? Are you like, do you live in New York?
I'm in Jersey, and then I'm also in Phoenix when I'm not working with the network. But I'm in Jersey right now.
Got it. I mean, because when you did the whole Sun Belt tour, your career. I mean, you were probably. Are you a great golfer?
What's hilarious is no. I'm an 11. I can play. I can hit the ball.
Not bad. Come on, 11.
Again, I was always. I didn't golf a ton in the summer. I tried to near the end of my career, but I was always rehabbing or I was on the Ryan Lindgren protocol a little bit. I was just trying to get ready for the season and know what was coming, and then I was rehabbing some sort of injury, and it was always tough. But yeah, I mean, my golf game is getting better now, but it's, you know, a lot of surgeries, so it's fun. I just love going out and hanging out with the guys and betting some. Yeah. I can say that now. I can bet. Yeah, I'm betting the shit out of it. Betting everything I can right now.
Yeah. No, well,
throwing money at the bookies.
When I looked at your tour, you clearly told your agent warm weather only. So I figured
I did. Yeah.
I figured you were a golfer.
It worked out that way, honestly. I thought it near, like, right before Arizona, I kind of was like, geez, I'm like, I might just finishes. But I got one game in Edmonton, so
Yeah,
technically I wasn't in Edmonton. I was in San Jose when I did it. So, but
Of course.
it's and I was in Bakersfield in the A. So I was the coldest I had was Worcester, and that was enough for me.
Worcester.
Cold as shit there.
You
Providence
don't need,
too. You know that. You don't.
Yeah.
That place isn't real.
That's real cold.
No, but thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No,
All
you're
right.
the best. Appreciate your time.
Boys.
Thanks, JD. Later.
So
Awesome.
the Bruins just put out
So-
a statement here. Head physician Dr. Peter Asnes, who's been their doctor forever, by the way. I got a chance to work with Dr. Asnes a couple of times. He's awesome, and it sounds like an injury to his right shoulder joint.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're treating. There was some pain, and they looked at the blood work, and he had a little infection in his right shoulder. I mean, and a significant injury to his AC joint. Wow. So
I just sent Vic the hit from where he got hurt. It was in the Finland game with about 9 minutes 47 seconds left. He gets cross-checked. I think it's Yoel Armia that cross-checks him.
So you're sure that's where he hurt it originally?
His shoulder goes right into the post. That's got to be it. And he's
Got it.
pain.
Well,
And
I mean, you wouldn't have known the way he played against Canada the next 2 days later or whatever that he had a shoulder injury. You wouldn't have known that. So
yeah.
I'm glad we got to talk about Zach Werenski a little bit today because I know that I have this feeling of, wow, I forgot how good Zach Werenski is. I remember there were years in the National Hockey League where I would feel like Werenski and Seth Jones were a top 2 or 3 D pair in the whole league together. And I know everybody's kind of gone south on Seth and things have not gone well in Chicago. And again, he used to be the guy they pre-picked for these Team USA teams and all this stuff. Together, Werenski and Zach Jones were an insanely talented defensive pair. I mean, I remember them from the way they played against Tampa in that first round series when they upset Tampa all those years ago, right? Pre-COVID, pre-bubble, all that. So I'm glad Zach Werenski's having a little bit of his coming out. Again, even for me, I'm remembering how good this guy is, right? I remember wondering, does he defend well enough to play in this tournament? And the answer is yes. He's as good defensively as he is offensively the way he's played in this tournament. And his skating is effortless. He might be yesterday. He might be the closest thing to skating like Quinn Hughes, that there is. He floats. Cale Makar is a little more powerful in the way his strides look, but Werenski and Quinn Hughes just float. So I'm really happy that he's having this tournament, for Team USA. So yeah, I mean, we talked about Fox, we talked the brothers have been, obviously they've been awesome to watch. I know Vic and I argued a lot before the tournament started about Eichel versus Matthews. Look, I don't think Austin Matthews has had a bad tournament for Team USA. No. Right? I don't think Hughes has had a bad tournament. I don't think Hughes has been offensive. But he's been good defensively. He's made little plays, right? Jack Eichel, to me, has been the number one center on this team.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
That's my issue, I think, with Austin Matthews, and his defensive play has been great. There's no doubt. And he's created. But is Austin Matthews more of throwing the team on your back and dragging you through this event? Is he throwing a team on his back and dragging you to a Stanley Cup? Because I think Jack Eichel looks like the guy who's going to do that. Is Matthews the guy who's going to do that?
No, I'm just laughing at what Vic is saying behind the scenes. He's saying, put Matthews with the Kachuk brothers, see what he could do with them.
Well, I think that there's a reason that they haven't put Matthews with the Kachuk brothers, right? I mean, I think that just, again, it just leaves you little question marks with Austin Matthews. Again, the guy's a superstar. There's no doubt about it. But like, he still does need to provide offense. He's Austin Matthews. He had 60 freaking goals, right? Like,
70
so
almost.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
What did he end up with? 68 goals?
69 on the dot. Yeah. You also sounded like Dr. Evil when you just said that.
What did I say?
60 freaking goals.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just saying, like, I like that all these players, and I think that you have to find your niche in a tournament like this, right? Like, you have to find it.
Yeah.
It looks like Matthews is not the guy he's not driving it. He's just not, right? And so, again, you're going to pay these guys to be $14, $15 million a year players and make them. Do you feel confident? Because this is the closest thing to Stanley Cup Finals hockey.
Yes and no. Like, I still think when the pace of play is, I'm laughing at Joe Mama. The pace of play is still so, like, we were watching Saturday night's game and it was like game 7 times 10 with the pace, like you have to still recognize.
But the pace isn't where these guys struggle to keep up with. It's getting to the high danger areas because it's gotten so heavy and the defending is at such a level and the physical play. And that's where I think it does mirror a Stanley Cup final series.
But to me, it's still that much better. I've never seen a pace this fast in my life. I haven't. Being at playoff games, like it's so hard to explain to me, I guess, just how little time and space there was in that Saturday game. There was no time to make any decision. The only play where I thought a USA player like really had the time, obviously the 2-on-1 or whatever you want to say, but Eichel's assist to Gensel, the first goal, was the only time to me where
the neutral zone just seemed really free.
Yeah, that was the only play that I could think of.
Yeah, well, I think both teams have realized that there's just too much talent. And if you make the neutral zone a walk in the park for either of these teams, they're gonna score goals. I mean, like,
the only play for Canada was the McDavid play. That was it. They didn't have any neutral zone presence.
Agreed. But you know that they're talking about that in the U.S. dressing room. Like, you can't let McKinnon and McDavid get going through the neutral zone. You can't let McCarr go through the neutral zone. Like, you just can't. These are like the number 1, 2, and 3 players, right? Like, in the world. You can have them on the ice together if you need to. And then, hey, I'm Sidney Crosby, and I'm actually still better than all of you. So,
before we do just move on, Colby, we do have the video of the hit on McAvoy. Vic's got it for us if people haven't seen it yet. Armia just shoves him right into the post. His shoulder literally is the first thing to make contact with the post. You see him grab it right there on the ground. Pretty cheap hit by Yoel Armia.
It is cheap, but I also kind of love it. Like,
left shoulder though, go right to the post.
Terrible. You don't do that to a guy, but it just like that illustrates what these countries felt about this tournament. It's do or die. It really is. And have you did you talk about the booing at all on the show? Did you guys get into that at all?
We got into a little bit with Jeff on Monday.
What did Jeff say about it?
Jeff said that we're like, Canadian fans aren't booing Americans. They're booing one person. They're booing the president. Like, that was the way that it was phrased.
And what did you say about it?
I said, listen, I can understand why they're booing. I understand it. I'm not for it. I'm not saying they should, but I understand it. Like, I have a clear level of mind of why they're doing it. Do I think they should? No. Like, if it were me, I don't know. But, again, like, I'm not a political person. That I've made that clear on here. And I know there were some boos in the Monday afternoon game, for the Canadian anthem. And I expect there to be boos, I think, for the Canadian anthem tomorrow night. I think it's getting into some political back and forth thing. But listen, we have to be honest with ourselves now. We keep saying keep politics out of sports, but this thing has become a little political. It has.
Listen,
game. It is.
I don't know if it's become
one,
or it's
become
just
part of the story.
Listen, you have people that are, sitting at the tops of our governments that are disagreeing and they're, working it out. Look, words do not hurt me or offend me.
Yeah.
Period. people say some of the nastiest, harshest things about, that you could ever possibly say. So
Yeah.
you want to boo. I thought that it was just giving the Americans bulletin board material.
Yeah. Did you? Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I muted myself.
Yeah.
I was not all hot and bothered by it. I thought it made the game better. I thought it helped that tea kettle of a start.
Yeah.
I think the Americans will probably boo the Canadian anthem at the finals.
Mhm.
And I don't think it means American to Canadian, we hate you. Like, how could you really hate a Canadian person? They're the nicest people. All they do is say sorry about everything. But I don't know. Like, to me, I think it's all in good fun. I really did. Like, you booed the anthem. There were 3 fights in 9 seconds. Team USA won. Now on Thursday, if the Americans boo the Canadians and then the Canadians go out and win, and well, they get the last laugh. But it's okay to spill hatred into these things. It's okay to line up on your own side and say, for tonight, I hate you. Like, it's me versus you. Like, I don't know. None of this stuff really bothers me all that much.
Well, you're a big anthem guy, so I'm surprised that
I love the anthem.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. But at the end of the day, Johnny, like, it's your call. Like, you paid for a ticket to be in the building, and you want to go and you want to boo, then boo. Like, honestly, me personally, I would never boo another country's anthem. I wouldn't do it. I just personally wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do. If I'm in the building on Thursday, I'm not booing the Canada anthem. No. It doesn't mean I'm not laughing.
I love Canada.
People probably doing it, but I'm not doing it. But at the end of the day, people can do what they want. It's okay. It's okay to, get fired up and react. And it's okay to talk shit. And it's okay to disagree. And it's okay for people to say what it is that they want to say. And we don't have to agree with it. So again, I'm not all super, super bothered by it. I'm a huge anthem person. I think people that say there should be no anthem in sports, you'll never hear
you think there should be no anthem in sports?
No. I'm saying I hear people say, I saw people tweeting, I saw all the writers, shocker, the writers, there should be no anthems in sports. Well,
I said I love the anthem. I'm all for the anthem. I love the anthem.
You would say that because you've never stood on the blue line before a sporting event or on the field or along the first or third base dugout and listen to them play the anthem. The immense pride that comes with that when you're standing there on the ice or the field, it's something that the writers will never understand, which is why they sit at their computers and all they do with their soft little souls is have negativity and shit to say, okay? And that is why they think that it has no role out there, because they have no fucking clue what they're talking about, because they were picked last in gym class, number one, and number two, they never played the game at a high level. Let's be honest. I'm not wrong. Let's be honest.
While we're on the topic of booing, you think Brad Marchand gets any boos in Boston?
I hope so. I hope they boo him right out of the building.
Yeah.
This is not Bruins. This is USA, Canada. I hope there's fights. I hope that the guys go after each other. I hope it is an absolute tea kettle on the ice. And I hope that we are treated to an instant classic is what I hope for. And look, we have no idea what the outcome of this game will be. I think you can roll the dice. I think it's going to come down to maybe a softie or a bounce or whatever. You know, the other thing I really wanted to mention today that
you're getting 5 days of thoughts out right now.
I wanted to say this. I want to give the referees, a lot of credit because I don't think if this was not that I don't think. If this was an IIHF event, it would never, ever, ever have been able to be this great.
Yeah,
because
we actually haven't had.
We talk about how bad the IIH refs are. The NHL refs have done an amazing job of letting the guys play. And I hope they let the guys play. 2 power plays each way, put the whistles away. it should be literal prison rules during this game. 2 power plays for each team, max. Full out prison rules. Let's go. That's what this game should be, and that's what I hope it will be. And the refs have done that in this tournament so well.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I mean, we spend probably 2 days a week on this show talking about a controversial call that happens in the NHL. There hasn't been really one that comes to mind in this tournament. Like, not have we even had like an offside review? I don't even think we've had one, or any kind of review, any goal interference. There's been nothing in this tournament, which is wild. And now I'm probably jinxing it. We'll probably have one tomorrow night. But Vic is yelling at us behind the scenes, so we do have one order of business to get to because Vic has another show to get to, even though, you know, I guess Vic can take time off as much as he wants and we can't make up for it.
Vic said he's ending the show in 3 minutes, no matter what. So go ahead, get to 365.
We got to get to Bet 365. And actually, you know, speaking of Brad Marchand, if I'm looking for one anytime goal scorer tomorrow night, not saying I'm rooting for it as an American, but how good of a storyline would it be for Brad Marchand to get one for Team Canada in Boston? You know, I think that'd be pretty cool. So Vic does have some of the odds pulled up from Bet365 for goal scorers. Marchand is actually pretty far down this list.
Well, he's not playing a lot. His minutes are low.
Doesn't matter. He's still a big game goal scorer. Like, think about his career. He had the winning goal in the World Cup of Hockey the last time we did best on best in the dying seconds. The 2 goals in Game 7, I think, right?
Yeah.
For Boston against Vancouver. Like, Brad Marchand shows up in these games. Like, he's a guy that I would look forward to pot one tomorrow night.
I'm gonna give you a couple of names. I'm gonna give you one American and one Canadian. How do you not go back to Jake Gensel for a goal? That guy just seems to be clutch. And for Canada, Braden Point. Like, if you're looking for a big gamer, look no further than Braden Point.
Yeah, and he's gonna play with McKinnon and Crosby, it sounds like, right? That was the top line they went with. Or no, it's Point, McDavid, and Stone, actually. Excuse me. Reinhardt's with Crosby.
They've tweaked things a couple of times.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Is Quinn Hughes going to play? Look, here's one thing that I know, having talked to some of the guys playing in this tournament. The flu is running rampant through this tournament.
You probably got 30 seconds, by the way.
I know this, having my whole house just been down hard for the last week. I mean, very, very, very hard. I know there's a lot of guys. I mean, Makar didn't play, right? Like, if he got the same strain of the flu that I've had, I understand why. Like, I felt like I was on my deathbed. It was awful. So who knows what's going to happen? Is Quinn Hughes' spot going to open up here in the next 12 hours because the guy's going to have the flu? We will certainly see. But
I think he's playing.
Give us a like on the episode. Is that inside information that you have?
No. I just think they're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't actually think that's, unfortunately, I don't. Just remember something. It doesn't have to be a defenseman. It's just a roster threshold, right? If there's another forward that's sick or can't play, they could always go 11-7. Remember that. So this is just a roster threshold. It's not a defensive threshold as far as getting Quinn Hughes into the lineup.
I didn't know that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. So give us a like on the episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. A couple more days. We are doing a show on Friday this week. So we what's today, Johnny? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
So we'll have Thursday. We'll have Friday. Johnny's got some guests, I think, lined up here the next couple of days, hopefully. And, you know, we'll be back here with you tomorrow as we always are. And then Friday will be a special Friday edition where we'll be talking about a gold medal for one of these two countries.
I'll be very hungover.
Johnny will be very hungover. Thank you for letting us know that. So we'll have to get a guest on Friday. And other than that, good to be back. I had a lot of thoughts, had to get a lot off my chest. I'm feeling a little bit better here. My daughter is still riding the struggle bus. So I'm going to go attend to those needs here as we finish up the show. We appreciate the chat today. We like your guys' opinions. I will say this. I saw a lot of new names in the chat today. So it's good to see that. I know I never really circled back to my Jeff Merrick call out. Maybe I'll just wait till he comes on the show live because I just want to know, like, why so grumpy about this tournament?
That's your role.
it's okay to say, you know what, I went into this thinking it was going to be this way. It wasn't, and I was wrong. It's okay to say that. So we're going to have to get Jeff back on the show and put his feet to the fire on it a little bit, because I know you didn't hold his feet to the fire on Monday.
I think I did, honestly. I was good. Did you listen to the show?
A little bit of it. That was
good.
So
I had a backbone. I had a spine.
Yeah, well, people are down on our pal, but that's all right. We'll hold him accountable, and hopefully we have a gold. He'll be a lot. Although now that he's dug his heels in so much, if Canada wins, I'm not sure that he can start the celebration and the parade now. But we'll circle back with him, guys. I promise you, I will hold him accountable and get him back on the show. I know Johnny likes to give people free passes. Don't worry.
I think I actually swear, if Vic wasn't in a rush to get off right now, he'd probably be defending me, but he's probably pissed at us right now.
All right. Well, listen, it's okay. Vic's going to be okay. So thanks for hanging with us today. Like the episode on the way out. We'll see everybody back here tomorrow. As I mentioned, we've got the Friday show. So a couple more shows to go this week. And again, it's good to be back. Good to see and hear from all of you. And we'll be right back here 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.